The small, decrepit house at the end of Maple Street had long been abandoned, its windows shattered and its walls covered in a blanket of ivy. Locals whispered that it was haunted, a place of malevolent spirits and dark secrets. On Halloween night, a thick fog rolled in, cloaking the dilapidated structure in an eerie, otherworldly glow. In the dense silence, only the creak of ancient wood and the distant howl of wind could be heard. Sarah, a young woman known for her curiosity and bravery, decided this was the night she would uncover the truth about the house. With a lantern in hand, she stepped over the creaking threshold, her heart pounding in her chest. Inside, the air was heavy with the stench of decay, the faint outline of furniture visible under dust and shadows. As she ventured deeper, the temperature plummeted, and she could see her breath forming in the cold air. Shadows seemed to dance on the edges of her vision, fleeting and insubstantial. Sarah reached the grand staircase, its wooden steps worn and precarious. Halfway up, she heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. She froze, the lantern light casting long, jagged shadows. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. The only response was silence. Summoning all her courage, Sarah continued her ascent, the whisper growing louder, more insistent. At the top of the stairs, she found herself in a long hallway, doors lining either side. Each door seemed to pulse with a life of its own, and from behind one, she heard a faint, rhythmic thudding. She approached cautiously and pushed the door open. The room was empty, save for a large, wooden chest in the center. Sarah hesitated, but then approached it, her hands shaking. She lifted the lid, and the sight within made her blood run cold. Bones, an assortment of human bones, neatly arranged. The whispering grew frantic, a cacophony of voices pleading, cursing, warning. In her panic, Sarah slammed the lid shut and backed away, only for the door behind her to slam shut with a deafening bang. Trapped, she turned to face the room, and to her horror, the chest began to move. The lid creaked open once more, and from within, a spectral hand emerged, followed by a grotesque, ghostly figure. Its eyes were hollow, its mouth a gaping void from which an unholy wail emerged. Sarah screamed, turning to the door and yanking at the handle, but it would not budge. The ghostly figure moved closer, its wail growing louder, more agonized. Just as its icy fingers brushed against her skin, there was a sudden silence. From the hallway came a slow, deliberate set of footsteps, growing closer, more confident. The door flew open, revealing a man dressed in ragged, blood-stained clothes. A figure long whispered about in town folklore, the house's original owner who had gone mad and was executed for his crimes. His eyes burned with a hellish fire as he took in the scene before him. The ghostly figure recoiled as if in fear, vanishing into the shadows. Sarah, paralyzed with terror, could only watch as the man approached her. His voice was a raspy whisper, "You shouldn't have come here." With a swift, brutal motion, he reached out and touched her forehead, her world plunging into darkness. When she awoke, she was in the middle of the street, the house looming silent and foreboding behind her. Blood covered her hands, but she was unhurt. She scrambled to her feet and fled, the memory of the night burned into her mind. From that day on, the whispers about the haunted house grew quieter, the fog around it thicker, as if the house itself was hiding from the world. Sarah knew she had seen something that night, something that would haunt her for the rest of her days.